It was a great day at the NYPD station. Birds chirped, the sun shined, and my favorite song was playing on the radio, Barbie Girl by Aqua. It was the American dream, but as my dad always would say, if you don't like ketchup, you probably aren't a walrus. I don't know. He was always drunk. One moment life was real good. The next, real shitty. Literally. My bowels started roaring, screaming out like the tortured souls of the damned.
For a third-person shooter from 2001, it is expected that some aspects of this neo-noir will show signs of age. There's undoubtedly some areas where Remedy can improve upon Max Payne in the remake, but what exactly? The visuals will be completely overhauled and will be using the developer's Northlight engine. Titles like Quantum Break, Control, and the Alan Wake remake look incredible, and have some of the best playability for hyper-realistic action games. However, before Northlight and even before the original Alan Wake, there was just Max Payne.
I clumsily waddled into the washroom, desperately holding the liquid excrement inside of my dump truck like the Titan Atlas holding the world in place. I frantically slammed the door shut behind me. It slammed hard, letting out an uncomfortable, soul-wrenching noise like your expensive cell phone falling onto concrete. There was no hope for my pants. Far too late now. They were done for.
While Max Payne may be over 20 years old, it still manages to be a riveting experience. What is it about Max Payne's first game that holds up? What part of Max Payne shows its age? Where can it be improved, and how does it fare on a Series S backwards compatibility? Find out in this Max Payne review.
Rockstar Games presents Max Payne, the intense story of a fugitive undercover cop who is framed for murder. A man with nothing to lose. Revolutionary bullet-time gameplay slows down the action, showing bullets in flight, giving Max the edge against impossible odds. Prepare for pain. Max Payne. Get it now on PlayStation 2, Xbox, and PC. Rated M for mature.
Max has a problem, and he's an up-and-coming New York police officer whose wife and baby have been murdered. No longer part of the NYPD, he's not only seeking revenge on his family's killer, but also clearing his name for being framed for the murder of a DEA agent. The deeper Max goes, the more entangled he gets with the conspiracy revolving around an enigmatic drug called Valkyr. Max's hallucinatory odyssey into the New York underbelly of the Russian mob and Norse mythological symbolism unravels a pharmaceutical conspiracy. More and more, the mysteries compound on themselves, and his journey takes on a spiritual quality, where he learns about himself and how his family was tied into this terrible plot.
The toilet stared up at me innocently. It had no idea what it was in for. Diarrhea blasted out of my beefy man cake, spraying the bowl a repugnant brown color. The force of the shit exploding out of my shit pussy launched me up into the ceiling and propelled me around the washroom like a balloon being deflated. A deadly shitnado of brown and red liquids assaulted the walls indiscriminately, my blood mixed in with last night's mistake, Taco Bell. I span around flying in an unrelenting whirlwind at Mach speeds. The thunderous roar of the Taco Bell gusted out of me in an unholy musical symphony of underwater trumpets. I thought the washroom would be my tomb.
Max Payne is about a man who could not be reduced. His nightmares bleed into the real world, and even then, his internal monologue makes a dry and witty remark about the horrible imagery. James McCaffrey's narration is flawless. The man truly embodies the character, and nails the classic hard-boiled detective drawl. Every line he delivers commands attention. Max Payne's gameplay was not a pioneer in third-person shooting, but it was one of the most refined examples in the genre at its time. The camera placement is high above Max, giving the player palpable spatial awareness. There is never any mistake about how far away an enemy is, or where Max is about everything in the environment. Controls rely on the now standard twin-stick first-person shooter configuration. At the time, this was novel, and for newcomers today, this will feel very natural and timeless while navigating and orienting oneself to the locations.
I awakened, finding myself drenched in my own sewage. I was like a newborn baby that came out of the wrong hole. The weight of my formerly black, now brown coat weighed into my chest, sinking deep into me, into my soul, just as my wrong decision to eat at a Mexican-themed fast food joint did. I contemplated taking the easy way out, but God sure does have a sense of humor. My Beretta was completely submerged in my BM. I weakly attempted to bring myself onto my feet, but my legs were weak, shaking and defeated. Shit was everywhere. The washroom was engulfed in darkness as the lights were all layered in doo-doo in the anal assault. I needed to leave, but my bowels had other plans. They weren't finished with their onslaught. No, they were just getting started.
The right stick movement and aiming are smooth, like a release within the last 5 years. Sadly, some aspects of Max Payne do show its age. Max's movement is a clear sign of it being a PC game from 2001 being ported to the original Xbox. Running is all or nothing. Max goes from a stationary position to full-on sprint and there is nothing in between. This makes controlling him feel very jerky, and it's not possible to make subtle, smooth motions with an analog stick. It could take some time to adjust to this, but it's easily the one aspect of the controls that have aged poorly. Super Mario 64 was a 3D game from 1996 that made full use of an analog stick. And by 2001, it was already a standard for all games moving forward on 6th generation consoles to have smooth 3D movement. Even for its time, Max's movement was behind the curve. While the timing is fluid, much of the shooting has a soft lock mechanic that can sometimes get in the way. Max Payne was originally a PC game that relies on pixel-precise mouse-looking aiming, which makes shooting very easy. For a 2001 Xbox game, this may have been considered too taxing for players at the time, so now Max merely has to look in the direction of threats to blow them away. This aggressive aim assist is meant to make the action more fluid, so players can focus on dodging and looking more stylish while going into Max Payne's biggest selling point, bullet time. The Matrix was one of those big watershed movie moments that inspired a ton of people, Remedy included. It depicted a stylish way to incorporate slow-mo with gunplay, and Max Payne embraces it. Max can't take too many hits, and during normal gunplay, gunfire is hit scan, while activating the slow-mo bullets are projectile-based and can be physically avoided. A large part of the strategy in Max Payne is managing Max's bullet time meter and filling it up with kills so players can rely on slow-mo as much as possible. Shootouts have an ebb and flow to them as players frantically avoid hit-scan fire and try to gain more bullet time by landing any shot they can while scrambling for some sweet painkillers.
I started climbing back onto the toilet, reaching up to the heavens onto the bowl in sheer desperation. My hand slipped off the bowl. There wasn't a dry spot to be found. No part of the restroom hadn't been violated by my shitstorm. I wasn't going to make it to the top of Mount Olympus in time. I was just a mortal.
Over 20 years later, Max Payne's violence still packs a punch, and it's owed to the excellent sound design of bullets ripping through flesh and shattering bone. When Max is on the wrong end of a bullet, reloading is the fastest it's ever been thanks to the backwards compatibility of modern Xbox consoles. Not only are retries quick, the checkpoints are liberally placed due to the compact yet dense levels accounting for the 2000s era technical limitations. The pace of the action is constantly rising with Max facing more absurd odds with every new area which is bookended with amusing comic book style cutscenes. Max Payne was art overcoming adversity, so the developers took it upon themselves to play out the most of the characters, with the director himself playing Max. There's a lot of charm in having Sam Lake play Max Payne. The man is very obviously not a hardened former New York cop and has very odd choices of facial expressions. This adds to the surreal quest that culminates in Max Payne's story, and especially in the playable space-bending nightmare sections that would become a staple for Remedy's games.
The butt juice bombardment recommenced. It fired out of me fiercely, like a meth addict slam firing a 12 gauge. I slid across the bathroom floor like a derailing train, crashing into the wall on the other side of the washroom. I felt at least one of my vertebrae shatter. I was losing even more blood. I limped back to the toilet just in time before the next tsunami started. The shit blasted out of me so hard that the toilet shattered into thousands of tiny porcelain pieces. But that didn't stop the biblical jet stream of shit to continue rocketing out of me.
The in-game cutscenes that use character models show just how limited Remedy was at the time. Most of the shots will be framed to avoid showing the speaker's face. This was likely due to the lack of facial rigging or animation. No matter what, Max will always have his trademark squinting face where he looks like he's trying not to laugh. Despite all the limitations of 2000s era specs, Max Payne is still a righteous action game that is enjoyable for its pacing and entertaining scenarios. Some parts late in the game were a bit cheap with how enemies are placed around the corners, but retrying is painless, and at worst, the lack of nuance in the movement may turn off some modern gamers.
If it's all the same, Max ain't the one to blame. If someone took my wife and baby, I would go insane. Gonna strap up or back up, going all out. And everything you took from me now, you're going down. Gonna spray bullets and execute every fool. And doing so with energy to dodge everything they shoot. In slow motion, where it's easy to do. And you killed my family, now it's time for me to kill you. And your whole crew and anyone else connected to you. I'm high as fuck and pumped up on amphetamines. And rage and pure motherfucking adrenaline. Where you drink and bathe in atrazine. I'm gonna light you up in fucking kerosene. Death and destruction is the only thing you'll get from me after what your boys all motherfucking did to me. Each one of you shot cold and fucking dead, pumped head to toe with rows of hot lead. Imposed my will of death on you instead. All of you could have it decided to play nice. Now I'm gonna fucking line you all up one by one, put you all on ice.
20 minutes had passed. My fart box was completely blown out. It was laying on the floor next to me. It was the final pound of salt that was poured into my wounds. I left and never said a word to anyone about it.
What a shame it would be if you didn't like and subscribe. Maybe if you shared this video, Command might let me review more cool and interesting games.